Imagine losing your husband, your home, and nearly your life. All because your HOA president decided she wanted revenge on a federal judge. This isn't fiction. This is the story of how one woman's greed and arrogance led to federal charges so severe, she'll spend the rest of her life in prison. And it all started with a fence fine. The gavel had been set down for the last time. After 30 years as Judge Miriam Blackwood, my days of courtrooms, testimony, and verdicts were behind me. Now I was simply Miriam, widow, gardener, neighbor. Our home was the last thing Harold and I built together. A 1940s craftsman on a quiet street, wrapped in white roses and shaded by an oak that had outlived 3 generations. Harold used to joke that the house breathed with us. When cancer took him, it felt like the walls themselves went hollow. I kept busy the way widows do, pruning roses, repainting shutters, preserving what memories I could. Some nights I'd sit on the porch swing, the one Harold insisted on sanding himself, and whisper his name just to hear it out loud. Life had slowed, quiet, predictable, until she arrived, Bryn Ashworth Sterling. She pulled into the cul-de-sac in a silver Tesla that gleamed like a scalpel under the sun. Stepping out, she was the picture of suburban royalty. Golden bob, designer sunglasses, a blazer in a shade of pink so loud it felt like a challenge. She didn't come to live here. She came to rule, her first act, the HOA. Within weeks, she wasn't just on the board, she was president. New bylaws, new fees, mandatory aesthetic compliance reviews. It started with a letter taped to my fence. Your boundary structure exceeds height limitations. Immediate corrective action required. Failure to comply will result in fines. My fence, Harold and I built it ourselves, stained it by hand. It had stood for 20 years without complaint. I thought it was a mistake. Until I saw her. Bryn, tape measure in hand, scribbling in her leather-bound ledger. She looked up, smiled. Not friendly, not neighborly, but the kind of smile predators give when they've cornered prey. 2 days later, the fines began. $500, then $200, then another $500. Non-compliant trellis. Unauthorized paint shade. Excessive foliage, I appealed. She denied, neighbors whispered, but no one opposed her. Her money and her ruthlessness made people fold, but I remembered her name. Bryn Ashworth Sterling. I remembered the trial. 3 years earlier, her husband's company stood accused of scamming elderly veterans out of their retirement. Fraudulent investments, fake guarantees. Families ruined. I presided over the case. I ruled against them. Their empire crumbled. Now here she was, in my cul-de-sac, measuring my fence. This wasn't about rules. It was revenge. But Bryn didn't know me as Miriam, the widow in a garden. She still thought of me as Judge Blackwood. She had no idea she was building her case on the steps of a federal courthouse. I didn't plan to fight her yet. No, I watched, documented, gathered. Because Bryn's mistake wasn't just coming after me. Her mistake was underestimating who she was coming after. The letters multiplied. Notices appeared on my door like plagues. Violation. Non-compliance. Penalty due. Bryn moved fast, spreading fear through the neighborhood. One family with 3 kids received a fine for improper basketball hoop placement. An elderly couple was cited for lawn clutter because of their birdbath. But her obsession with me went beyond. Paper. My security cameras caught her maid's face pressed against my kitchen window, clipboard in hand. At night she walked my yard like she owned it, snapping pictures of my roses. She left my gate open, letting trucks roll through my property, tearing divots into Harold's carefully tended lawn. Then came the cruelty that made my blood run cold. My cat, Gavel, Harold's gift, a little tuxedo rescue who slept on his chest during chemo. One evening, Gavel staggered home, sides heaving. His ribs were broken. Emergency vet, $800 bill. The vet said bluntly, blunt force trauma, kicked or hit. The next morning, Bryn's landscaping crew worked 3 doors down. Laughing, smoking, stomping mud off their boots, Gavel lived. But that was no accident. That was a message, and I wasn't the only one receiving them. Neighbors whispered about Bryn's special accounts, fines paid in cash, checks deposited under shell LLCs, repairs billed but never completed. She wasn't just cruel. She was stealing. And then came Patricia Whitmore, my neighbor of 10 years. Silver hair, cardigan collection, always ready with cookies. She knocked one evening, a tray of oatmeal raisin in her hands, and as soon as the door shut, she leaned in and whispered, "I used to work for the Bureau." And I know her face. She laid out files, photos, records. Bryn Ashworth Sterling wasn't her first name. She'd been Bryn Calloway in Arizona, Bryn Marks in Nevada. Each identity came with lawsuits, insurance fraud, embezzlement, even allegations of witness intimidation. She'd run cons across 3 states. And each time, when investigators closed in, she vanished and reappeared under a new name. Now she was running the HOA like her personal bank. This wasn't just harassment. This was organized crime. They came at night, not landscapers this time, professionals. My cameras caught them arriving in unmarked vans. Toolboxes opened, but not for drills. For propane rigs, tubing, accelerant cans. They worked methodically, laying trails beneath my foundation, running lines like arteries of fire. At 3:17 a.m., my world exploded. The roar shattered windows for blocks. Flames clawed the sky, swallowing Harold's roses, his handwriting carved in the beams, the swing we built together. The air smelled of propane and burning cedar. I stood across the street, robe clutched tight, neighbors gasping, the fire reflecting in Bryn's sunglasses. She had brought cameras, reporters in tow, framing herself as the vigilant neighbor who had warned about my unsafe wiring. But arrogance betrays. Her insurance claims? Filed the week before the fire. Multiple policies, overlapping coverage. The signatures in different inks. The fire marshal pulled soil samples. Clear accelerant traces. And when he confronted Bryn, she made her biggest mistake. She slid an envelope across his clipboard, thinking she was buying silence. His body cam caught everything. She thought she was burning evidence. She was building my case. 7 days later, Bryn walked into court in shackles charges arson, insurance fraud, bribery, RICO conspiracy, attempted murder of a federal judge, bond. Denied. Her empire crumbled overnight. The HOA board dissolved under federal receivership, fines refunded, accounts seized. Every shell company unraveled like wet paper. Neighbors who once hid behind blinds now stood beside me, testifying. Stories poured out. Threats, extortion, property sabotage. Together we became the chorus she couldn't silence. And justice didn't stop at prison. The assets she'd hoarded, luxury cars, homes, offshore accounts, were liquidated. And with them, Harold's Scholarship Fund was born. Every year, first-generation law students would carry forward what Bryn tried to destroy. As for me, I rebuilt, not the same house, and that was gone, but I rebuilt my life. Gavel curls at my side as I write this, his purr a steady reminder of resilience. The roses are gone, but in their place a new garden grows. Bryn thought she could erase me with fire. Instead, she erased herself. Because justice, in the end, isn't about revenge. It's about balance. And when balance tilts too far, even a queen bee can burn in her own hive.